The following conversation with Gemini 2 5 Pro, whose knowledge cutoff was Jan 2025, which contains the Epstein evidence, but doesn't contain Trump's crash at the summer over Epstein, who just will not die, bless his genitals, now on display whenever he uses the Lincoln bathroom, or his press secretary's futile attempts to call it a hoax, bless the hard-quiet asinine speech to the generals in the most unstrategic gathering of military in the history of the hominids. Yes, I'm assuming Neanderthals never did anything that's stupid, bless his liver. I'm really trying to put the Trump administration in the best light for this one. Here goes. Endorphin. Trump administration claims that Trump's involvement in the Epstein scandal is a hoax. How elaborate would the conspiracy apparatus have to be for the Democrats to construct the hoax? Given Occam's razor, would the actual scandal be the simpler scenario? Gemini 2 5 Pro. This is a complex question that involves analyzing two competing narratives. To address it properly, we will break down the two scenarios, the hoax theory and the scandal theory, and then apply the principle of Occam's razor. This analysis relies on publicly available information and court documents. It does not introduce new claims or accusations, but rather examines the logical structure of existing ones. The actual scandal scenario, the undisputed facts. First, let's establish the baseline public information that forms the basis of what is often referred to as the scandal. This is not an assertion of criminal wrongdoing, but an outline of the documented public association between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Public association. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were known to socialize together in the 1990s and early 2000s in New York and Palm Beach. There are numerous photographs of them together at parties and events. Trump's own statements. In a 2002 New York Magazine profile, Trump is quoted as saying of Epstein, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." Flight logs. Trump's name appears on logs for Epstein's private jet for flights between Florida, New York, and other locations. These logs, submitted as evidence in court, document travel but do not contain information about what happened on the flights. Testimony. In sworn testimony, one of Epstein's victims, Johanna Sjoberg, stated that while flying on Epstein's plane, the pilot once said Trump would be joining them on a different flight late to a different destination. She testified that she did not have any interactions with Trump that were improper. Virginia Jeffer alleged in an unsealed deposition she saw him at Epstein's Mar-a-Lago residence. However, it is important to note that no accuser in any of the criminal cases against Epstein has accused Donald Trump of engaging in any illegal sexual activity with him. At falling out, both Trump and others have stated that the two men had a falling out around 2004 or 2005. The reason is disputed, with some reporting it was over a business deal, and Trump himself stated it was because he banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club. The actual scandal scenario rests on these publicly documented facts. The core of this argument is that a man who would become president of the United States had a years-long association and a friendship with a man who was, in fact, a prolific sex offender. In this view, a large-scale conspiracy is not needed. The controversy arises naturally from the public record. The hoax scenario. How a conspiracy might be constructed. For the claims of a public connection to be a complete hoax constructed by Democrats, an extremely elaborate and covert apparatus would be required. Here is what the theoretical conspiracy would have to entail. Manufacturing a public history, photo forgery, dozens of photographs of Trump and Epstein together at public events over many years would need to be convincingly forged. This would require experts in photo manipulation able to create high-quality images that would fool journalists and forensic experts for decades. The conspiracy would also need to plant these forged photos into the archives of legitimate news organizations like Getty Images. Press forgery. The conspirators would have to fabricate the 2002 New York Magazine article, or at a minimum, pressure or bribe the journalists and editors at the time to insert the now infamous quote from Trump. This would require the silence and complicity of the magazine's entire editorial and fact-checking staff from over 20 years ago, fabricating legal and aviation records, altering flight logs. The official flight logs submitted as evidence in federal court cases would need to be forged to include Donald Trump's name on certain flight paths. This would mean creating fake pilot logs and records that align with real-world dates and travel capabilities, and then secretly substituting them for the real ones without anyone at the FAA, the piloting company, or the legal teams involved noticing. Coercing sworn testimony. The apparatus would need to recruit, bribe, or threaten witnesses like Johanna Sjoberg to mention Trump's name in sworn sealed depositions, a federal crime, perjury punishable by prison time. They would need to ensure these witnesses maintain their fabricated story for years, even under intense scrutiny from defense attorneys and FBI investigators. Coordination and control. A central command. A highly disciplined group of democratic leaders and political operatives would have to conceptualize and manage this entire operation for over 2 decades. Silent collusion. This group would need to coordinate the actions of otherwise independent and often competing entities, multiple media organizations, federal court clerks, private aviation companies, and victims' legal teams. Absolute secrecy. For the hoax to be effective, every single person involved, from the photo forgers, coerced journalists, bribed pilots, and witnesses committing perjury, would need to remain silent for years. A single credible whistleblower or deathbed confession would unravel the entire operation. Applying Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a principle suggesting that when 2 explanations are offered for an event, the simpler, the one that requires fewer new assumptions, is more likely to be true. That actual scandal scenario assumptions. That the numerous public photos are real. That a mainstream magazine accurately quoted Trump in 2002. That court-submitted flight logs are authentic. That witnesses testified truthfully under oath about who they encountered. That political opponents and the media find this documented association newsworthy and scandalous. This is a standard aspect of politics, not a special assumption. The hoax conspiracy scenario assumptions. The existence of a powerful, secret organization with the means to forge decades of evidence. This organization can infiltrate and control major media outlets, federal court systems, and private companies. Scores of individuals, journalists, pilots, editors, and witnesses are willing to commit federal crimes, perjury, fraud, conspiracy for political cause. This conspiracy, involving hundreds of people in disparate fields, has been maintained for over 20 years with 0 credible leads. Conclusion based on Occam's razor. Applying this principle, the actual scandal scenario is vastly simpler. It relies on publicly available, authenticated documents and statements. The scandal is simply that the association occurred, a fact supported by direct evidence and Trump's own words. The hoax scenario, in contrast, requires a series of extraordinary, unproven, and highly complex assumptions about a vast, multi-decade criminal conspiracy with perfect discipline and no leaks. Therefore, according to Occam's razor, the explanation of the controversy stems from a well-documented and real association is the more plausible